Hey everyone, how's it going today? I wanted to talk about perspectives in this episode, as that is how we each experience life. Think about it as Earth as being its own reality bubble, and we all reside on this planet. And within that, all of us in our own human vessels, and that being our own reality bubbles. And that basically is how it is. When we think of it that way, each of us experience reality from our own eyes. That's how we see it. We don't see ourselves unless we look in the mirror and a camera or photos. We see through our eyes. And from there, all our perceptions and thoughts create the world that we experience. And so we need to realize that just because I see the world this way or a certain way doesn't mean that you see it that way, and that the person beside you doesn't see it the way you do, and people all over the world don't see it exactly as you do. Some may see it similar as you do, but it doesn't mean that there are not people that see it completely differently than you do. And that's what's important to know about humanity, is that we all experience life differently. We all have a different perception of what we believe life to be. One of my favorite sayings that I say often is, what you believe, you perceive. And that very much is what life is. Whatever we believe to be true is what we perceive and see in life. When we have an opinion of something, if we hold on to that opinion and then we view something, our views of it already changed how we would see whatever it is in any circumstance. If you think someone is a bad guy, when you first meet them, you're going to continue seeing all the things you think is bad about them. Whereas if you just allow them to be and allow who they are to show you who they are before you pass any kind of judgments, then you've allowed the person to be, and from there you can decide if you wish to interact with this person more, if you want them in your life more, instead of being like, he's a bad guy, and then just labeling him as a bad guy without even letting them be who they are. And that is a big problem we have with politics, with religion, with everything diversifying about us, that we feel that there is only one way and one answer, that we fight so hard against, that we even kill people and go to wars and break friendships and relationships over. We need to realize that people have their own understanding of things, have their own experience in things, and come up with their own way of viewing things. And we need to allow for that. And we need to allow that for ourselves. And that is something that we'll talk about as we go along too, is the cycle of things, on how we need to allow for others and we need to allow for ourselves, and how it just constantly goes around and around, though forward, still around and around. When we start to realize that life is all about one's own perspective on how we see things, we then can be more open to people being who they are, allowing people to be who they are, allowing ourselves to be who we are, and ourselves being who we are. And when we can do that is when we will all experience a better world, because we realize then that while we can be all different, we can all exist together among one another. Because in truth, what is it that we all wish to experience? I believe what we all wish to experience is love, happiness, and joy. I do. Some people might want to suffer for a while, yes, because they need to learn that pain. And the truth is, that is what pain and tragedy and trauma bring to us as well, is appreciation and realizing what is happiness, what is love, what is trust, what is communication. You only know what things are when you have the contrast. And from there is when we learn to be more at peace and allow for others to have that, is when we ourselves are happy. And how can we be happy? Again, it is in our perception, how we view things. So if one tends to view things negatively, even though you don't realize you are. And when I say negative, please don't take it as something so harsh that you're like, I don't see things negatively. Even there, that's the energy. Negative isn't a bad thing, and positive isn't necessarily a good thing. It's just what they are. So negative is just that energy of shutting off, of not being okay, of disassociation and separating yourself with others. Whereas positive is more on that scale of what, it's just the energies behind it. That's all they are. It's words to describe what they are. So don't take it harshly. If you are taking it harshly, and you'll probably take this kind of harshly too, but that is about ego. Ego is a very human-based emotion, and it's okay to have ego. We actually need ego in some ways, because if we didn't have ego, we would just be jumping off buildings thinking we could fly. There'd be no fear of certain things. Something that is beneficial is to realize the way things can help, that too much of anything is not good for you, that moderation is key. When I was a very positive person, super, super duper positive, like I'm sure you might think I'm positive now too, which I am, but at the same time, I realize more. And I have been, in some ways, I call tainted in ways, because I used to be completely positive. And I feel in some ways that could be taken to an extreme where it could have been annoying for some. And when you're also too negative, so this is when I'll be talking about the spectrums as well, as the one extreme to the next, and then how the middle is the best balance of both to be existing in harmony, and how from there there's just so much in there. There's so much wonderfulness in the balance. But anyways, that will also be another episode. From there, with the perspective, if you don't realize how you see things. So something like someone is just being happy and you're just like, oh, like look at them. They're like that itself is your perception. If you look at it like I'm not good enough, that again is a perception. If you tell yourself, I can do this, I have this, and try to give yourself courage, confidence, love, that is also a perception. If you look into a situation, let's say a fight between you and a good friend or family or your partner, and you think that you can no longer be friends or be with them anymore, or you just never want to see your family again. That again is another perception, and that's how you view your reality. And then when you become less angry, then you start being okay with it, and again, your perception. And so we need to start realizing how our perspectives of things start forming the realities that we're existing in. And when you can start seeing that, you can start realizing your thought patterns that you feed yourself, the thought patterns that you view life from, the thoughts you feed yourself that you see how you view life in this positive or negative or whatever view it is you do. And when you realize that you do that and that the 7 billion rest of us also do that, then you would realize that we each have our own truths of life, the things that we believe. And not just that, the way we were raised, the experiences we have gone through, the situations, scenarios, the things that we have taken from it also impact the view on how we view life. But it doesn't mean that that's the same for everyone. And so we must realize that in religion, in politics, and everything about life that we experience, each to their own, is because we all come up with our own opinion and perception and perspective of where we believe and what we believe life to be. We can totally be inspired by others into what we believe life to be. We can totally change our mind on what we perceive life to be. And when you realize that you change your mind and you change your opinion, allow for others to change their mind and opinion too. And if they do not wish to, allow for that too, is because it's all within our own choice and our free will of what it is we decide we wish to see life as. Many people, when I say that, might be like, well, then you can just tell yourself life is this and life is that, even though that's not reality. But the truth is, what is reality to you? There is a common reality, and then there is individual reality. And there's so many different realities that we all exist in. And when we can see that each of us do live in our own realities and that it can become part of the greater reality, when we are then in a good place, in a good reality, and more people are, then that does create the common reality we all live in. Right now, the common reality we all live in is lots of suffering. There's so much suffering going around the world. There's so much separation. There's so much fighting. And it's because we ourselves are not okay within us. We constantly fight for this is right, my truth is what's right, what I believe the world to be is right, even if your beliefs are the views of your religion, or your beliefs are the views of your parents or your friends, or whatever your beliefs of life is, it still pertains to that the way that you see life is the way that you see life, and not necessarily how someone else views life. And so from there, again, the only way that we can come into common ground on this is for us all to be more accepting on everyone else's diversifying views, because we need to realize that there is not just one truth. There are many truths. And in some ways you can look at it as there are 7 billion plus truths, or even 14 billion years, okay fine, 13.8 billion years from the Big Bang of truths out to here, impacted, compacted into us. And oh wow, there's actually way more than that, because there's gazillions amounts of truth, really, if you want to look at it that way. But back to the micro, even though we could look at it as macro. And you see, this is how things continue to change, and views change, and perspective changes. And we need to realize that all are valid points of perspective, perception, and opinion. And that is why perspective is so key in the life that we experience. We decide what it is we're experiencing. We decide what it is we're going through. Anyways, good luck and enjoy your perspective of life, and realize that what you choose to be part of your life is exactly what you will experience. Good luck with that. Lots of love.